Hi, everyone. As you can see, I am hosting this episode with my Rode 5 microphone. The Rode 5 microphone is top notch. Um, Anyways, I'm not promoting. I'm just saying, like, if you want to buy a microphone, this is the one. Today, I wanted to talk about content strategy. What is it, and how can it help your life, no matter what it is you do? So, my name is Marley Uribe, and I am a content strategist, producer, actress, and filmmaker in Los Angeles, in the great city of Los Angeles. So, what does this mean? Why did I choose to do this job, seeing that I'm an actress? Well, the reason I chose to do content strategy is because my first job out of college was as I was made the marketing head for a startup company. And I did not study marketing in college. I I did not study design. In fact, I would get kicked out of the design classes by the snooty design students. I went to UCLA. I studied political science and economics, so super like almost like communications, but with like a business angle. Communications and business basically. So I didn't like study content strategy. So you could be like, "Well, why the hell would you like do content strategy as a job? Why did I get that marketing job?" Guys, sometimes the career finds you. The founder met me and he literally was like, I thought like I was going to hire somebody to do sales, but looking at you, I think you can lead my marketing department. And I did. I led his freaking marketing department and it was freaking awesome. Like in I worked at that startup while I was acting, and it was basically like a dream come true. Um So now I wanted to make like an episode as to like what content strategy is, content strategy 101, and how it can help you like no matter what career you do. Content strategy is literally the definition is the strategy of your content. So whether you're a business, whether you are a law firm, whether you're an actress, whether you're a model, whether you're a stay-at-home mom who wants to sell things on TikTok, you need a content strategy. And by that, I don't mean that like you have to have a schedule, like, and that you have to post 5 times a day or 5 times a week. I don't mean that. You have to sit down and figure out like what your content pillars are, the framework under which you're going to release content. Because once you sit down and you really figure that out, then every piece of content that you put out, you're going to make sure that it checks those check marks and it's going to lead you to your business goals. If you're a model, your business goals would be to get more followers, to get brands to follow you, to get designers to follow you. If you're an actress, your business goal should be to get more followers, to get casting directors to follow you, peers, collaborators, fans. And if you're a lawyer or a business, like you can imagine what your goals would be. It would be to get more clients. So, how do we do content strategy? Simple. You literally just pull out a, a piece of paper, and here I'll pull it out for you right now. I like to help people. So in a perfect world, I would have a nice whiteboard or a presentation, but I do so many of those for work that I just really don't want to do it. So what you have to do are you have to do content pillars. So like I said, content pillars are, view them as buckets. Like they are the buckets that define your business. Like for me, let's work on my content strategy for my media company, Rising Phoenix Media. Rising Phoenix Media's business goal is to get investors, collaborators, and audience. So in order to do that, I have to pick the 3 pillars that set me apart from everybody else. What are those 3 pillars? They could be 1 to 5 pillars, but for the purposes of this video, let's just do 3 pillars. And okay, so the first pillar, the first thing that sets me apart from other people is that Rising Phoenix Media is female centered, is female and queer leaning, female and Latina leaning, but more generally female centered. So let's just say that. Let's just say that it's female centered. Why is this important? Because a lot of founders out there, when they look for people to work with, like especially like media companies that can produce content for them or videos for them, productions for them, or events for them, they have to deal with a lot of like bureaucracy, or they have to deal with a lot of men who might talk down to them. A lot of founders, they don't care for that. You know what I mean? Especially, I've been finding more and more that like a lot of brands, like even if they're like, even like more complex companies, like tech companies or something like that, or aerospace companies, like a lot of the people that work in them, like the heads of communication, are actually like Generation Z woman, or like zillennial woman, or millennial woman. Like they're young women, and like they don't even want to deal with like the old school guys that like just want to shove a bunch of product down to their throat and just talk down to them. Like they just don't want that anymore. So yeah, my content pillar is that I'm female centered. So also you have to define your product. Like your content has to define the product that you sell. At Rising Phoenix Media, I sell social media services and video production and event production. So that should always be in the back of your head. Okay, cool. So the second content pillar, the second thing that sets me apart at Rising Media Productions, is that our stories, the stories that I tell, connect with the public on a deep emotional level. They connect with the public on a deep emotional level, and I have proof to back it up. I've gone into festivals, I've won awards that actually testify to this. I have testimonials, I have reviews from people that have worked with me, and they express that like my work has this vision, but it also connects with people on a deep emotional level. So that's definitely one of my content pillars. Deep emotional level. And again, like you could say like, oh, this is a little too general, but it's like, this is just an example. You can like go more into depth, like more into depth. It's a hard word to say, depth, more into depth. Depth. You can go more into depth. You can go more shallow, do more of the deep dive. But yeah, my stories do connect with people on a deep emotional level. And why is that? It's not just because I am woo-woo, not just because I'm like a ditzy hippie. It's not because of that. It's because I use a formula when I tell my stories. I like to find the one thing that is like the spine of the message. For example, in my film Frida the Woman, it became award-winning because I found the spine of Frida's childhood. And to me, the spine of Frida's childhood was that she turned to her art because she had nothing else left. So then that hit really hard in the festivals. If we were talking like about something else, like for example, if I was talking to a founder for a brand, and they were selling like for example, like a microphone. Like if a company approached me and they're like, can you help me sell this microphone? What would help people connect on a deep emotional level with a microphone? Well, obviously the stories that they tell. Duh. Like human beings are nothing without stories. And 10 people can tell the same story, but if they don't tell it in a way that shows you that they hit the spine of the story, you're not going to feel anything. But if we could connect the stories that people tell, like I'm already envisioning like maybe like a little girl visiting her grandma, and maybe like a narration, and maybe like the grandma used to make like the little girl a dinner, like a dinner of like grilled cheese with like a cup of milk, a cup of chocolate milk. And maybe the little girl loved it because maybe her parents never let her have a grilled cheese with chocolate milk. And then the scene shows the little girl and her grandma laughing, And it's a simple scene. But then she could be narrating this, and then maybe like the images and like the fun that she had with her grandma. And then, maybe we flash forward to like a young woman. Like the girl is now a woman, and she's dropping her kids off with her grandma, Americans love doing that. They love full circle moments. Like if this was more for like the international market, it would be something a little shorter. It would be something a little more international. Like maybe maybe now the girl is like going on a trip and she's like eating grilled cheese in like another country, like in Mexico, and they bring like a molcajete with like guacamole, and she bites into it, and she like closes her eyes and she remembers her grandma, you know? Like, I just got chills. I don't know about you. But like, and then like, and then you could see that like maybe she's like a podcaster traveling, so then she finishes the grilled cheese and she pulls out her microphone and she starts like her podcast at the restaurant, or like at her loft or whatever. Or maybe you just realize that like this was just like playing on the screen, and then like the woman is actually just like narrating these things on her microphone, and then a catch line like "rode with you when you need it the most," you know, and then showing like this label. So that's what I mean. Like I find that like in advertising and in media, it's like connecting on a deep psychological level, like connecting emotionally is what makes things work. And it's been proven time and time again. I could talk about that forever. So then that's the second content pillar. The third content pillar could be that I am a one-stop shop. I really am. We are a one at Rising Phoenix Media. We are a one-stop shop. Meaning that like that we can do video, events, PR, pictures, social media content, social media strategy, and account management, like reports and client-facing relationships. So that is the work of like 5 agencies. And trust me, like there are agencies out there that are really good at doing each one of those things. But the problem is that like a founder, like for example, like even big companies like this beautiful Australian company, Rode, sometimes they don't have all those budgets. Like sometimes like you would be surprised how much of like the budgets for big companies kind of like go to the salaries of people, and how much marketers and PR people at companies kind of have to like bend over backwards to stretch every dollar, because if they don't, then their job goes, you know? So at Rising Phoenix Media, we are a one-stop shop. So yeah, those would be my 3 content pillars. So what I would do is I would like infuse these 3 content pillars into everything I do. For example, like if I was going to post on the Instagram, I would make sure that I make posts that showcase our work and show that there's females that work here, aka me. I would show work that connects on a deep emotional level. I would try to show a mixture of like both like cinematic stuff and branded commercial stuff, and you know, when the time comes, like feature film stuff and TV stuff. And I would also want to show like case studies, kind of like what we did for this client, or like, you know, this client came to us with this problem, you know. And then, you know, that would be for social. If I had to do an event, the event would have to be themed with these content pillars. If I had to do, and the content pillars actually help business development, because sometimes like, sometimes marketers don't know who to form brand partnerships with because they don't have this solidified. So sometimes like some time is spent chasing partnerships that perhaps don't really align because they were fancy or because they were available, but in the long term, they're not evergreen. So that's why I swear by content strategy analysis. I guess like now would be a good time to announce my Rising Phoenix Media page. But realistically, I just wanted to go on and talk about what content strategy is at its core. At the higher levels, content strategy can be as fancy and as ridiculous as you want it to be. Like for example, like an example of this is like there is this guy called Warner Bailey on LinkedIn. I'm gonna give 2 examples, like a smaller example and a bigger example. And Warner Bailey is, you know, he's one of my friends. He's in my network. He's one of my online friends. I don't know him in person, you know, but like, but I interact with him because he put up a job board. He's a very resourceful person on LinkedIn. He's like a LinkedIn persona. And what he does is he has a company that like makes events. So that's, you know, how he makes his money, I assume. And then they partner with brands. So they go to brands like Red Bull and they're like, hey, we make events for like assistants in Hollywood. Like if you want to like sponsor this event, like we're going to give you creative, we're going to give you so and so, like they negotiate what they want, right? So content strategy is needed for that because you know like person A could approach Red Bull and be like, hey, I want to work with you, and Red Bull will be like, okay, yeah, a lot of people want to work with us. We're a media company, why would we want you? But like if you know your content strategy and you know what sets you apart, you know what are the 2 to 3 to 5 things that set you apart. Like for example, for Warner, it's that he can do these events at the Hollywood level, at the grassroots Hollywood level with assistants, whereas a lot of assistants drink Red Bull because a lot of assistants are tired and they don't make much money, they don't sleep much, they party, they date, they're on Red Bull, they run on Red Bull, like so like that's his angle. And there's a market for that because, Red Bull like does a lot of marketing for like colleges, for like the people, for the demographic, for the people that would buy Red Bull. Like who's going to buy Red Bull? A college student. Like a young mom who's trying to be healthy isn't going to buy Red Bull, like nor would an actress, like, or maybe she would, but more than likely a college student is going to buy Red Bull. Another example of like a higher level of content strategy is the F1, like the F1 racing event that just happened. I'm sure you guys all saw it on Instagram. Like we all got FOMO. We all woke up one morning. Like most of us don't know what F1 is, nor do we care. But we all sure as hell got FOMO when we woke up and we saw all the Victoria's Secret models like at the F1 place, or when we saw like the hot actors and actresses that we follow on the F1 floor. And that's what it is. It's not like, I guess some of them do want to go to these things. Like an F1, like if you want to bring me, like I'm your girl. Like I've always been a fan of the driving, But like the reason they're there is because like they pitched themselves to F1, them or their managers pitched themselves to F1 and they were like, hey, I have so and so followers. I sell you a package. I'll sell like, 3 to 5 pictures or videos if you take me there and you pay me. And F1 is like, let's do it, because F1 was going to spend that money anyways. They much rather spend it with people that are going to make like user generated content. They do want a lot of people to do that because that's what converts the most. Like in this day and age, like user generated content has a return rate, an ROI, which means like a return of like this much, whereas like traditional advertising, like commercials and like paid media and all that, has a return that's like a little less, and you have to you spend way less money flying out all these like fun people, these party people to your event, and the event looks so much better when there's not just like the F1 drivers and the executives. The event looks just so much more alive when it's like all the colorful people of the rainbow, like the Victoria's Secret people. Like it's just like, it just fills people up with life. It makes them feel like hell yeah, like, so that's why like brands are like allocating so much more strategy. And in order to do that, like everybody from like the Victoria's Secret model's manager to like the influencer who's barely starting out, like they had to use content strategy to get there. So yeah, this is I know this is a little bit different than what I usually like to do, but like I like to take you guys along with the journey. I think you guys are my homies, my flock, and I'm gonna, I said I'd take you along for the ride, so this is part of it. This is the brains of it. For the next episode, let me know what else you want me to cover. Like I would love, I'm going to make an episode on how to pitch yourself to magazines. I'm going to make another episode on I'm making it up on the spot, on how to pitch yourself to the brands you want to work with, so that you end up working with cool brands and not just like selling tuna cans on Instagram, And most importantly, I am going to take you guys along as I prep for con. Tomorrow I'm meeting with my stylist. We're going to go over the looks. I'm going to see how much he lets me show, because a lot of stylists are kind of like, no, like, you have to sign an NDA. You know, this dress was worn by Beyonce in 1973 and it's worth $150,000. Every time you take a picture of it, you have to pay $75,000 to post it. Like, it's just like a lot of designers can be extra like that. So I need to make sure who I'm dealing with tomorrow. But he's one of my good friends, so I think it'll be good. But I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about the designers we're going to represent. Because designers are something else. And I love designers. If you guys want to put me in your designs, like, look at me. I'm not a size 100. You guys, my waist is smaller than 52 inches, so I'm your girl. But yeah, like I could go on forever about designer stories, but I think the most notable designer story that I have is that once I went to the Yvon Vuitton style house in Hollywood. Yvon, if you're out there, I love you. Um, and Yvon was like, he was chatting with me. Like, Yvon is a French man. He's a stylist. He used to dress Brad Pitt, and he's dressed every model in Los Angeles, basically. And he was like on this reality TV show called Rica Famosa Latina, and he was talking Spanish, and I thought he was Mexican, because he said he was Mexican. Like he jumps in and he's like, I'm Mexican. Hola Marley, ¿cómo estás? Marley, viva Mexico. Like, he was just saying these things, and I was just like, how come he speaks Spanish? Like, I told my friend Aaron, I was like, how come he speaks Spanish? And Aaron was like, he's Mexican today. And I was just like, and I was like very naive. Like, I was just like, oh, cool, I'm Mexican too. And then, like, you know, I noticed he had like green eyes, and I'm like, are you from like Guadalajara too? Like, you know? And then because there's this Mexican joke that if you're Mexican and you have green or blue eyes, like, you're from this place called Guadalajara. And it's just a joke, and it's true. So he's like, of course I'm from there. And I was like, are you from this place? And he's like, of course I'm from this place. And I was like, oh crap, I'm in the right place. And then nobody was telling me the joke. And then I was like, wait, then how come you have like a name that doesn't sound Spanish? And then he's like, because we immigrated. And I was like, oh, okay. And then by that point, I really believed it, because there was a lot of French immigration in Guadalajara. And I was just like, I really thought I was at home. And then his husband comes up to me. Aaron was his husband at the time. He comes up to me and he's like, he's just from France. He's just fucking with you. Like, he just learned a little bit of lines of Spanish to be on the show. And that's what they were doing. They were like, they would teach him a little bit of Spanish, and then he, like, you know, because he had a Colombian husband at the time, he was just like, you know, he was just Mexican. And all the Mexicans believed it, because I think, like, I wouldn't say Mexicans were gullible. I would just say we just have a saying that, like, you can be Mexican and be born anywhere. Like, you could be Mexican and be born in China. Like, Mexican is a sentiment. Like, if you want to be Mexican, like, you are Mexican. Like, we will never deny that to you. But yeah, and turns out he wasn't Mexican. And another time, I was like busy, like, I was on set, and a designer was like, please, you know, hold this for me. And I held it. And then, you know, I go and I do my scenes, and then I come back to my phone and I have like 20 missed phone calls. And I was like, what? And then he's like, you do know you're carrying a dress that's worth $60,000, right? And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, that dress you have is $60,000. And I was just like, oh shit. And then I was like, come and get it, please. Like, I don't want it. And it was weird, because it wasn't even a dress I wore. It was just, he was just like, he didn't have a car, so like, he wanted me to hold his designs. But anyways, don't carry packages for anyone, guys. Okay. Love you guys. As always, I can talk forever. And yeah, that's it. Bye.